For this section, you're going to want to look at the inspection of the self-contained breathing apparatus sheet, skills check sheet, that's included just above the video. Before using SCBAs, you need to properly ensure that they're inspected. An inspection basically makes sure that your SCBA isn't going to break down while you're using it, and a lot of times we'll go through them not only just once a month, but we also should go through them every time that we come on and after every use that we have. For today, we're going to be using, you're going to need your face mask. Should be in your protective bag. You're also going to have an SCBA assembly as well. Before we get started, let's go over some of the main terms of what we're talking about. This is a face piece. This is a voice amplifier. It's an exhalation valve. This is netting, headpiece netting. Regulator. This is a backpack. This is an SCBA bottle. Down here is a transfill valve. We have the buddy breather that's in this pouch. And we have the pass device right here. And then we also talk a little bit about heads-up display, which are the lights that show up next to your nose piece, and the disconnect button. So those are some of the things that we'll be talking about. That being said, in order to inspect this, first we need to take apart the bottle from the backpack assembly, and unscrew this. Make sure that all the air is let out of the bottle, and unscrew the valve. Then there's a button up here by the top of your stem. Just press that down and pull out. This one's a little bit tucked in there. Anytime we're working with bottles, we need to remember that these are missiles because they're high pressured, and so therefore we don't want to just set them up here in a place where they could fall down and the stem could break off and cause them to shoot. We want to always set them in a place where it's safe. I like to set them right on the floor and make sure that they're not going to fall off while I'm doing my inspection. Everybody can do that differently. If you have a good spot on the truck, you can do that as well. Now we're ready to inspect the backpack. Start out by getting all your straps, getting everything set. I like to work from one end to the other. That way I make sure I get everything without missing anything. The big thing about the inspection, especially when you're taking a test, is to make sure that everything that your hand touches, that you tell your proctor, the person that's checking you off. Because everything that you touch is something that you want to check out and make sure that it's working properly. This is an extremely important piece of our life-saving protective equipment, and so we want to always make sure that it's up to the best standards possible. So you start out with your seatbelt buckle, or with your buckle. Make sure it works, snap it in, make sure that there's not crud or anything in there that could be causing problems with that. Then you're going to go through, look for any nicks or tears in the strap here. Okay, make sure that it's fully extended. I'm going to check, make sure there's nothing wrong with that strap. Check the backpack assembly here. And I'm just going to follow this through. Follow the strap, shoulder strap up. Make sure there's no frays, tears, rips, or coloring. This one here has mud all over the strap, so before I put that back in service, I'm going to definitely want to make sure that that's cleaned up. So I'm going to check my straps here, make sure there's nothing going on there. Check my strap up here, and I just follow it up to the top here, make sure that it's buttoned on. Then I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to check my alarm. If I click it, I should see one green button right there, and I should also be able to see it back here. If it's any other color, it probably indicates that the batteries are low and you need to be changed. Okay? I'm also going to make sure that I can see my gauge right here clearly, that the lens isn't scraped up or scuffed. I'm going to check the rubber and make sure that there's no cuts, scraps, or anything like that. Have a pass alarm button right here, and this is my activation button for that. Make sure that all this are secured in there tightly, which they are. I'm just going to follow my hoses up, make sure that they're not frayed, if there's anything going on. Now this hose here is obviously going to be the air hose line, and then the other part is the electrical. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't feel anything frayed, and that looks pretty good. I'm just going to, since I'm already on the hose lines, I'm going to follow them all the way through into the main board of this. Check my top strap, looks good. Then I'm going to go down this other shoulder strap, check down the strap, make sure there's nothing wrong with it, looking for frays, tears, or dirty that needs to be taken care of. Everything looks good, make sure it's fully extended. I'm going to wait to do that air hose in a minute. I'm going to come down over here to this side. Once I get down the bottom, check across the bottom here. Go along the strap here, make sure it's fully extended, no frays, tears, or anything that would impede it from being useful. Then I'm going to check the regulator. Make sure it's clean in here. I'm going to make sure that the bypass valve works, which is here. It moves freely. And I'm also going to check to make sure there's no dirty debris or anything inside there. And I'm going to re-secure that with that. At this point, I'm going to check my backpack assembly. I'm just going to turn it over. It's a lot easier to check this way. I'm going to go down through the backpack to make sure that it's secured. I'm going to press a little bit on it, make sure there's no broken pieces that maybe I can't feel, but they might be evident when I press on it. But everything looks secure and feels firm. Check to make sure that my control module's properly set, and it should give a little bit. So when I'm moving up and down, it's not going to rip off the pack or something like that. I'm going to check my strap, to my harness strap, and that seems to work. Make sure it locks down. Go through the pack. Then I'm going to check my low pressure or my high pressure hose line right here. Make sure that my thing's clean. I'm going to check my quick fill, trans-fill valve. And that looks good and clean. I'm going to check where my pack is hooked in. Look at the threads here, they're good. Inside here is a small ring called the O-ring. And we want to double check to make sure that there's no fraying or scars or damage to that as well. Which everything looks great right now. So that's next thing I want to do is open up my buddy breather. Make sure that pack is clean. A lot of times debris gets caught in here, and a lot of guys don't recognize it until it's too late, or until they put it back and then they open it up and insulation and stuff falls out. So always check that, make sure it's cleaned out. This is buddy breather. Okay, I'm going to pull off the protective plate on it. Check this out. I can see that this valve moves freely. I don't see any debris in there, and I can see that there's no debris in this. Both are secured pretty well to the as they should be. And I'm going to put my protector back cover on it. Check all that. And I want to just go through the hose to make sure that there's no fraying or any damage to that. Because this my buddy might need, or I might use if my pack breaks. So that looks good. At this point, I'm just going to wrap this up and put it back in here so that it's out of my way. And then just snap these buttons. Okay, so my pack is ready. My backpack assembly is good. And so right now, like I said, the only thing I want to do is clean it up after, because there's a couple places I thought were a little dirty. But other than that, this thing is ready to go and looking good for that. So I'm going to set that out of the way and go back and grab my bottle. This bottle is a 45-minute bottle, and it has a hydrostatic test date on it. And if we look along this line right here, we can see the hydrostatic test date is 11/08. Now this bottle is a composite bottle, which means that it has 5 years between each time that it needs to be tested. So 11/08, it's still in service and good. It should be good till that would be November this year. So it does need to be tested, but right now it's in good service. So the other thing I'm going to do with this bottle is double check to make sure that it's full, completely full. I always want to keep my bottle with as much air in it as possible, which should be right at the 45 mark, because that might give me that little bit of extra air if something happens. We want to definitely make sure it's full. So first thing I'm going to do is start up here at the top. Just check, make sure that the butt plate's on there good. Check down here, make sure that I can see both sides and the gauge looks like it's working. I'm going to come down here, just look a little bit for dirt, check my threads. I also like to crack my bottle, because if there is any debris in here, then it'll kind of blow it out. So just like that. Okay, and that also tells me that the valve moves freely and that there's no problems with that. Okay, I'm going to check up here, make sure that this is assembled and that the plate right here is secured and not broken. I'm just going to look through my bottle. I don't want any scrapes or dents or blevies, anything that could cause a problem for this bottle or make it so it wouldn't work properly. And everything looks good on this bottle. So with that being said, and checking through it, I'm going to go ahead and just assemble this back into my backpack assembly. Then it's a little bit safer. I don't have to worry about falling off the trucks, anything like that. Bring my backpack assembly back over here. Make sure this is open again. The butt plate goes down. I slide my bottle in. And then I just secure it back in here. And it just snaps in at the bottom there to the butt plate. And then I'm just going to screw on the hose line. And I want to make sure this is completely secured. We don't want to have a bottle that's half secured or that could wiggle loose and come undone while you're firefighting. So just like that. This is now set up and ready to go. I'm just going to set that up. My next and last piece is my SCBA mask. SCBA mask, I want to look for dry rot on the head net, which is basically, you know, rotting, or, you know, like the net is basically deteriorating. Just shouldn't be. I just make sure that all my straps are extended fully. Make sure that my lens is clean and clear of any scratches. If you do have a voice amplifier on your mask, you want to press down the button, make sure it turns green. That means that I have good battery and that it's working. If you don't have a voice amplifier, you can find them on any of the trucks when you're on the way to the call. Make sure you snap one onto your valve here. Anyway, I'm just going to check my nose piece, make sure that everything's good on that there's no holes or anything like that. So everything looks good. At this point, I would go ahead, I'd put on my mask, put my hand over it, make sure that it's sealed around my face. If it's properly sealed, when I press my hand against it and I try to breathe in, it should suck to my face and I shouldn't hear any air leaking. So that's one of the first things I would do. Then after I do that, I'd want to hook up, turn on my bottle, and hook it to the air piece, or to my air mask. Take a few breaths in. I'd also be listening for my SCBA alarm to be going off, my low pressure alarm. I listen for my pass alarm, And then as I breathe in my last little bit of air, I'd shut off my bottle, breathe it down, and then I'd hear the final compression. So that's what I'm gonna do right now.
Low pressure alarm, pass alarm is activated. Make sure my bottle is completely open. I have good heads up display. Positive pressure. Positive pressure. My pass alarm is working. Bypass is working. Set off my pass alarm. Everything's working with that. Now I'm going to shut off my bottle. I'm going to breathe that down.
Now at this point, since I've got all the air breathed down, now I'm going to take and I'm going to double press the yellow button, and that will shut down my pack. So it should sound right here. Pack's off.